Meanwhile, the late Chief of Army Staff Ibrahim Atahiru and 10 others who died in the plane crash in Kaduna last week have been laid to rest at the National Military Cemetery, Abuja, over the weekend. Top government officials and security officers were all present to pay their last respects to the fallen heroes who died in active service. Details in this next report. The death of the recently appointed Chief of Army Staff and 10 other military personnel came as a rude shock for the country. Solemn tears flowed freely from widows, friends, family, colleagues, and well-wishers as the coffins bearing the remains of the personnel arrived for the final rites, draped with flags to honor their memory and service to country. While funeral rites for the late Chief of Army Staff and 6 other officers took place at the National Mosque in Abuja, the rites for 4 others held at the Nigerian Air Force Protestant Church. After the prayers, their remains were moved to the National Military Cemetery for interment, where the next of kin of the officers were presented with a Nigerian flag in honor of their dead. The Minister of Defense, who represented President Muhammadu Buhari at the funeral, lauded the devotion and loyalty of the late Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru to duty.
The late Chief of Army Staff inspired courage and confidence in the Nigerian Army, which informed the successes recorded during his watch. He led the Nigerian Army from the front and was a source of inspiration worthy of emulation by all officers and men of the armed forces of Nigeria. He will always be remembered for his dedication, commitment as a military officer, and his numerous landmark contributions to the Nigerian unity, peace, and security.
Magashi also acknowledged the contributions made by the other deceased officers to the successes in the country's fight against insecurity.
These were among the finest senior officers in the Nigerian Army. These gentlemen were committed to the duties professionally and contributed immensely to the successes achieved by the armed forces in recent time. They will surely be missed. They were focused, courageous, and devoted to the discharge of their responsibilities. Their contributions and sacrifices to the nationhood cannot be forgotten and will continue to linger in the hearts and arch in the history books of Nigeria.
The Chief of Defense Staff also paid an emotional tribute to the late military personnel.
The recruits of Depot Nigerian Army were to be on passing out parade to herald their joining the workforce of the armed forces of Nigeria. The Chief of Army Staff was to be the special guest of honor at the event. One of our finest and best pilots was conveying him along with the entourage. After landing at Kaduna International Airport, the cold hands of death, which manifested in the stormy weather, ended that journey. The sting of death. You have not stopped the fight against all forms of insecurity.
In February, 7 people died after a military plane crashed short of a runway in Abuja. The Nigerian Air Force has promised to conduct transparent investigations into these fatal plane crashes. Adekunle, TV360, Nigeria.